Hello everybody, Mannix here. Going to be doing a knife review on a discontinued knife. A discontinued CRKT. This happens to be the Eraser. The Liong Ma Eraser. Liong Ma is the name of the designer of this knife. Absolutely one of my favorites. It's a big, old, robust, beautiful knife. Very heavy duty. You may see the liner lock there. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I know I said heavy duty and see a liner lock. Some people put two and two together. They're like, that can't be heavy duty. Let me explain in just a while here. It's just absolutely one of my favorites. It's a shame they discontinued it. Maybe the sales weren't great. I don't know what the story was behind it. They made this version. A couple years later, they made an all-black version, which sold for a while. And then they just discontinued both of them. I don't know the full story. I don't know the full timeline. But here, mid-early 2022... these are no longer being produced. I got this one for about $120 used. You can see some light scratches on there, some light scuff marks in the pocket clip, but overall it locks up well, it deploys well. The lockup's still kind of early on there as well. Now, if you find these brand new, you're probably going to be spending closer to $200, I would assume. Don't know for sure, but I would imagine it would be somewhere around there, and they're only going to go up as time goes on, and the longer they remain discontinued, that's just how it goes. It's absolutely one of my favorites. I had a couple of these, either one or two of these many years ago, but for whatever reason I sold them. I traded them. I don't remember what I did to them, but I got rid of them. I absolutely loved them, but out with the old, in with the new. You can absolutely love a folding knife, but at some point you just kind of get bored of it and you want to try something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's probably just what I did. But I'm going to hold on to this one just because it's discontinued. I ended up paying almost double what I paid all those years ago. You used to get these for around $70 or so, if I remember correctly. But again, now if you find them used even, it was a bid and you're going to be spending probably close to what I did, which is like $110, $120. Maybe even more if the condition's even better than this one. And the condition's okay on this one, so... Anyway, I just wanted to show it to you real quick because it's one of my favorites. It's really cool. Big old busty. I was going to say robust, and it came out as busty, but I think that's really hilarious for a knife, so I'm just going to leave that in there. Knife, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Very eccentric, very different looking. You can see the handle. Some people call this a pistol grip. I don't know if I would call that a pistol grip, but it definitely cants upward like that. It looks almost like there's a big old chunk taken out of the handle there. This gives you a lot of room to place your knife downward on a surface if you were to do a kitchen style cut. I don't know if I would do that with this knife, but that's the idea behind it. Your fingers, or the knuckles, not even the knuckles, what are these called? This part of it, that's the knuckle. That's the tip of your finger. I guess let's just say your fingers. Your fingers almost run parallel to the cutting edge there, which gives you more room for certain cuts. I actually really like it. I like it when knives do that. The Boker S2 is absolutely one of my favorite knives out there, which also has a similar design as far as that handle is concerned. Very intriguing. I melt for that. I think the design's really cool looking. Again, it's very kind of crooked and odd, but it's beautiful all at the same time. Specs, let's get them out of the way. Blade length is 3.875 inches. The handle length is 5 inches, and they say the overall length is 8.75 inches. Now, if you did a little math there, if I didn't confuse you too much throwing those numbers at you, you'd realize something's off. Blade length 3.875 inches plus 5 inches, which is the handle length. That should be 8.875 inches for an overall length, right? Well, they wrote 8.75. I think that's incorrect. I pulled a ruler out and I measured this myself. It looks like the handle's actually just under 5 inches. I didn't get the exact number. The blade lengths did actually seem to be 3.875, and 8.75 inches was the overall length. So I guess they were, for whatever reason, they wrote 5 inches. The handle length's actually slightly shorter than 5 inches. So don't be afraid to measure your own knives. Someone did a review of the Spyderco Kiwi many years ago, and a similar situation came up. The dimensions just didn't quite add up, and the guy doing the review said the blade length is different from the overall length minus the handle length. I don't know about that. Maybe. I didn't look into that, but maybe their specs were just wrong. I don't know. I figured that the same thing was happening here, but I decided to measure it myself. And not that you really care. If it's 0.1 inches off, as far as the handle is concerned, who really cares? It's thick. 6.2 ounces is the weight on this one. That's pretty heavy for the size. It is a big knife, but even then, that's pretty heavy. It is not skeletonized at all. We have full stainless steel liners. We have G10 slabs in the handle. We have stainless steel bolsters right here, which are gorgeous. It's a big, chunky, heavy knife with no skeletonizing whatsoever. You have to expect that to be the weight. I measured it myself. My scale's saying 6.29 ounces instead of 6.2 ounces. Ooh, sneaky there, CRKT. Trying to make us think it was lighter than it really was, you sneaky devils. No, that's extremely common with knives. I see slightly different weights all the time on them. Yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. It is a flipper. It is completely manual. It is a liner lock. Some people think liner locks are weak. Yeah, they're weaker than some other locking mechanisms out there, but this knife has the LOX system on it. The LOX lock, L-A WKS. Forget what that stands for off the top of my head, but basically it's just an obstruction that gets in the way of the liner, as you can see right there. Stainless steel, I believe. It's just a little, it's like a lock for the lock. Now, it's not extremely strong or anything, but it's already very difficult for you to accidentally disengage your liner, even with hard use, but now you got a lock for your lock. It's like a park brake for your car, essentially. Now, it's extremely, extremely unlikely. It's virtually impossible that you're going to accidentally disengage this, even under some really hard use. I've seen some people do some tests on these back in the day, not this knife specifically, but the CRKT knives with the locks on them, and they have actually managed to break the lock are there, and it's just a very slight obstruction in the way of the liner. It's not like the cold steel leaf spring locking mechanism or anything, which is another lock for the liner locks they have. It's just an obstruction. It's kind of just like a safety. It doesn't really strengthen it. It just makes it more safe to use. You could argue it makes it a little bit stronger, but it's mostly just a safety mechanism. And I kind of like the shape on here. It's not like most of them they have where it's parallel to the handle. It cants upward. I don't like it when it's out like that because it's just an obstruction in the way of your thumb, and it's not exactly the most comfortable. You can almost say it's like a thumb ramp, but you kind of have to scooch down on the handle in order to utilize that. I don't know why they shaped it like that, but whatever. I do kind of like how it's flush. It gets out of the way of your thumb. You won't accidentally engage it. I really like that a lot. You do feel it, but it's hard to accidentally engage. You have to just use the tip of your thumb and get it in there to engage it on purpose. And that's really cool, I think. It's out of the way. Some people complained about that. They didn't like how it was hard to engage. It's whatever. The idea is that it's manual and it's flush and it's out of the way when you don't want to use it. So I'm not going to fault CRKT for that. I actually kind of like that. So if you don't want to use it, you don't have to, and it's not in the way. That's awesome. It's a nice little addition to the liner locking mechanism there. No ball bearings or anything. It's just a really, really smooth opening. It's kind of interesting. It's so big and so beefy, but there's a really strong detent on here. You have to push inward with the tip of your finger in order for it to flick out, but it works every single time if you do that. And that's pretty awesome. You don't have to give it a wrist flick or anything. Not that there's anything like wrong with that with manual flippers, but I don't prefer having to flick my wrist out. I like it if it just opens almost like it's an automatic or an assisted knife or something. Completely manual, but it opens up like an assisted. That's kind of cool. Some people try to open it up that way, like they just push the flipper downward, and you can do that too if you just give it a little wrist flick. It'll flick open every single time without even thinking about it. Absolutely easy, really smooth, very fast. But if you don't want to use the wrist flick, just push it inward, and there you go. It's just got a very strong detent. You can hear it pop out. It's the strongest detent I've seen on a folding knife in a long time. I don't know what the strongest one I've ever seen was offhand, but it's strong. I imagine maybe that made the knife slightly unpopular. Some people just weren't really used to it. Like, oh man, that's a really strong detent. It's kind of hard to open it up. It's possible they weren't opening the knife up the intended way it's supposed to be opened up, but I can see why that would confuse and annoy some people. Like maybe they got this in hand and be like, oh, I didn't think it would feel like that. It does feel a little different from most other flippers. I will give it that. Not a big deal though. I do happen to love it. Opens up every single time if you know what you're doing. No jimping other than the spine back here and the butt of the handle, we will say. In reverse grip, it carries just like that. It matches your thumb very well. I like it when knife companies do that. They just give a lot of attention to detail. Not that I would normally use this in a reverse grip, but if you had to in a certain situation, you absolutely can. Jimping's not going to do a whole lot for you in that respect, but it's there. It works just a little bit. Not that I really care. It's more aesthetic than anything. I like how the cutouts in the liners match up with the cutouts in the G10. One more thing I'll say about this G10 right here. It's not grippy as in like a sandpapery grip like you will see on most G10 handle scales. It's almost rubberized feeling. It's just the type of grip or the type of cutouts they went on here. I really like it actually. I would like to see more knives do that. It's grippy, just not like a sandpaper grip. Reminds me of the Kershaw Nerves handle right here. It's similar. I don't know what finish this is on the bolsters. I'm going to call that a bead blasted finish, but it kind of looks a little more sparkly to be a bead blasted finish. It almost looks like it's gold. It's almost a gold color knife. I think there's just a slight hint of gold on the bolsters right here. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's silver. Maybe my mind's just playing a trick on me, but it looks gold-ish to me, like a silver-gold mix. It's really awesome. Really beautiful. There's so much to hold on to. It's really comfortable. I like these mild cutouts here. I like how rounded it is around the edges, as you can see. Big old stop pin you can see right there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention AUS 8 blade steel on here, so it's kind of a middle ground. I've talked about that dozens of times in my knife reviews. Either you're not going to like it or you're not going to mind it. It's on the cheaper side, but the knife was relatively expensive for that blade steel, but you're getting a lot of extra material on here, and that's where a lot of the money was going in the manufacturing process, I believe, so I can't really fault them for that. It is what it is. You know, throwing out even better blade steel, it's going to drive up that price up into the stratosphere probably, so just take what you can get. And now it's just going to get even more expensive, so if you really want one of these knives, you better find one soon. Tip up, tip down, left and right hand carry. You can see the spots, the cutouts right there for the pocket clip are on all four sides of the knife. It comes in tip up right hand, which is probably the most popular orientation. Pocket clip's kind of goofy looking to me. It's like a weird spoon, but it's absolutely functional. You know, I kind of wish they went with a different design, but it works. Something more like squared off and kind of curved would probably be cool. Well, maybe not curved, because then if you swapped it to the other side, it would go lopsided, so whatever. But it's completely functional. Not a big deal. Blackened, that's what's going to be poking out of your pocket. It's a little low riding, so you got quite a bit poking out there, but I don't really care. It's not super low or anything. Some people would have liked a loop over pocket clip. It is what it is, you know. Could have done better on that, but it's not a big deal. Love the blade shape. It's a reverse tanto, they call it, I believe. We basically just have like a smiley face right in here. You can see how reflective that is too. Satin finish, hollow grind. Very interesting. So basically, we have a slight belly to it. There's not like a whole lot of belly or anything, but the tip and the spine are just modified, as they call that. It looks like a slightly different blade shape. Again, if you got rid of that, that's all you have right there. It's a very simple blade shape right there. Very effective. Some people would have liked a little more belly. Yeah, take it or leave it. It's going to be very good at the thrust cut. We have a very strong tip right here, but we don't have two tips because it's not a regular tanto. It's what some may call a reverse tanto. Kind of reminds me of like a bird beak or something, like a predatory bird of some kind. It's interesting to me. I like the swedge on here. It deploys every single time. You just have to get used to it, and it is big and heavy and chunky, but that's kind of the point. It's a robust knife. Super comfortable in both the reverse and the normal grip right here. And the AUSA blade steel that CRKT does is absolutely adequate. Gets razor sharp and sharpens pretty fast too. It doesn't have the best rust resistance or corrosion resistance. It doesn't retain its edge for too long, but I'd say it's a step up above 8 CR13 MOV. I think it's a little bit better than 440C. Some people may disagree on that one. It just kind of depends on what company is doing what to the heat treatment of the steel, etc. Big old guard from the flipper right there. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what else to say about it. If you're not into extreme designs like this, or you don't like this design specifically, it's a very extreme design. You know, it doesn't look like a typical folding knife. You look at it, it's kind of crooked. You have a big old cutout in the handle in comparison to the blade right there. It's very effective. It's going to be good at piercing and good at everyday tasks, but it is big and kind of cumbersome. And although you do have the manual locks right there, it's not the strongest knife as far as the locking mechanism goes. It's okay. It's stronger than most liners because of the locks right there, but it's not outstanding or anything. A nice side actuating locking mechanism on here would have been kind of cool, but I don't know if CRKT has any of those or are allowed to use any of those right now based on patents or what's going on. I don't know. Or back in the day, back when these were made, 9 years ago, I can't remember the exact time when these were out. Alright, so tactical blade, yay or nay? Yeah. I'm going to put it in the category of a tactical / defensive blade. It's not the best at it, but it's certainly not bad either. Again, we have a lot to hold on to despite not being really any jimping. The locking mechanism is going to be good enough. Nice guard right there. It's not going to get knocked out of your hand very easily at all. It's long. We have a lot of edge to work with here. It flicks out very fast. Again, no wrist movement required if you do it properly. Very impressive for a bigger, heavy blade like this. Quite a bit to pull out of your pocket right there as well. It's a little on the smooth side, again, but we have such a wide handle here, it doesn't matter too much. So if you're getting this knife just for tactical purposes, there's better knives out there. I'm not going to lie, it's not great at that, but it's not bad for tactical use either. Now as for EDC, it's also very good. It's fast, it's smooth, it's slick. However, it is big, chunky, and heavy. It is a chunky monkey of a knife. You are going to notice it in your pocket. It takes up a lot of space. It gives you a lot of edge there to work with, but most EDC tasks, we don't even need close to this much edge right here. So it's pretty niche. It's not an all-around knife. It's not going to be good at most things in general. It's not a great EDC blade. It's not a great tactical blade, but it's very beautiful. It's very sweet. There's a lot of classiness to it, but it's also very aggressive looking at the same time. It's one of the most interesting folding knives I've ever seen, which is why I have it. That's why I bought it, even at this price point. They're only going to get harder to find. I figured I would just end the video by showing it next to another favorite CRKT of mine, the CRKT Foresight. Very similar knife in some ways, even though it looks completely different. They're both very big, robust knives. Oh, gorgeous. And then just for giggles, I brought in the CRKT Golf, another big CRKT that I happen to love. Look at that. 3 big old CRKTs that mean business. They don't even look like they're from the same company in some ways. Maybe the Foresight and the Golf are a little closer, but that's what I love about CRKT. You just never know what you're going to get. You have so many different collaborations and different knife designers working with them, and it's like a little randomizer box from Mario Kart or something. You don't know what knife they're going to put out next. They're all affordable. They're all big, although these are getting harder to find because they're no longer being made. Just thought I'd share that with you. Oh, just so gorgeous. So gorgeous. But anyway, it's not your turn, Foresight. It is the Eraser's turn. That is it. One of my favorite knives ever. Go buy one if you can find one in good condition and you happen to really like the way it looks, because they're going to get harder to find.